Okay, so step 2 in my process for process costing is to find the equivalent units. So this is from step 1, our whole units and our units to be assigned cost. And we have our groups down here, group 1, 2, and 3. And now we got to figure out the equivalent units. So a couple of suppositions, things we assume or assumptions that we have in this problem is that in this particular process, this would be the case with all processes, but in this particular process, all materials are added at the beginning of the process. So that means once it is started, the materials are all there. So no more additional materials are done, which means these ones that say 70%, 25%, it's not talking about direct materials, which is my column here. It's talking about conversion costs, because conversion costs are added as the process goes along. So remember, direct materials is exactly what it sounds like, my direct materials. Conversion costs, we're talking about direct labor and overhead. So when we go through this, what I need to do is I need to say, okay, if I have in group 1, if I've got 5,000 units, I want to figure out what percentage of materials were added in July. Well, because all materials in this particular example were added at the beginning of the process, that means that no direct materials were added to this group 1. No materials were added to group 1 in July, because all of them were done in June or in a prior month, because it was my beginning inventory. So that's a percentage added in July for materials would be 0 for group 1. Group 2 was started and completed. Started and completed means not only did we start at this time frame, we also finished at this time frame. And since direct materials, again, were added at the beginning of the process, and these were started, which means the beginning of the process did happen this month, 100% was added to the product in July. So I can take the 57,000 times 100%. And this is my equivalent. I should label this. This is my equivalent units. It's my equivalent units for direct materials, and I'll have an equivalent units for my conversion cost as well. Okay. All right. So we're going to continue with direct materials here now, though. So I can add this down just like I did over there, 0 plus 57,000. And now my group 3. So group 2 is 100%. Group 3, in this case, again, because all materials were added in July, group 3, remember, represents materials that were in ending work in process. Costs were put into the product, but were not completed. But again, my materials were all added at the beginning. So this one, again, is 100%. So I can multiply 3,000 times 100% and then add that down. So for direct materials, I've got $60,000 or $60,000, excuse me, 60,000 units that need direct materials allocated cost, or then we need to allocate the direct materials cost to 60,000 equivalent units, specifically for direct materials. Now, equivalent units for conversion costs. Now, conversion costs are not done all up front, so this is different. Instead, they are what these percentages talk about over here, the 70% complete and 25% complete. But what I'm looking for is how much is put into this process in July. So if group 1 is what it says it is, and it is units that were in beginning work in process, and we just need additional costs. So if it is 70% complete, that means in order to make it 100% complete, I would add 30% of the conversion cost. So again, I'm going to take the 5,000 times how much percent conversion we needed to complete them in July. So that gives me 1,500 equivalent units. Started and completed is always on both sides going to be 100, because if it was started and completed, that means that it was not only started in this period, but also finished in this period. So all of the costs would be allocated to it. I can again add down here, 58.5. And then inventory and process. Inventory and process, and during July, it was 25% complete. So this one, because it is not done, 25% was added to it. So see up here, because group 1 was finished during this time frame, I took the remainder, because these were finished up, right? They had 70 to begin with, and then we finished up for 30% to make them 100% complete. Down here, though, because they did not get finished, they did not get to 100%, I'm saying what did I put into them in July, which was only 25%. So I'm taking the 3,000 times 25% to get my equivalent units for that. So my equivalent units for direct materials total is 60,000. My equivalent units for conversion costs in this case is 59,250. Now what I can do with that information is what I'm going to end up doing. I'll do this in the next step is now that I have the equivalent units, I can find the total cost for direct materials and the total cost for conversion cost, and I can allocate to each equivalent unit based on how much cost, how much direct materials cost and conversion cost we had, and I can allocate based on equivalent units. And how this works is then it makes it not skewed for the fact that these were not started during this time frame. I only put 30% of the work in, and these were not finished. I only put 25% of the work in. So and up here, it's not skewed. The 5,000, I didn't put any of the direct materials work in, so I want to make sure that I didn't include that. So only what was actually done in July is included in these equivalent units numbers, and that's why we do this. The next video, we will talk about step 3, which is determining the cost per equivalent unit.